Welcome back to my channel. What happened after SNME unseen footage? Jon Moxley says goodbye to John Cena, WWE SNME, and tonight we are diving deep into one of the most emotional, talked about, and unseen moments in recent WWE history, a moment that didn't happen under the bright lights of the arena or in front of millions of cameras, but instead unfolded quietly backstage after Saturday night's main event went off the air. When the crowd filed out, when the commentators signed off, and when the world thought the story had ended, another chapter began, one filled with raw emotion, unfiltered respect, and a goodbye that carried the weight of an entire era. Saturday night's main event was already historic on its own. From the opening bell to the final moment John Cena stood in the ring, soaking in the cheers, the night felt different. There was a heaviness in the air, an understanding among fans that they weren't just watching another premium live event, they were witnessing the closing moments of a legendary journey. Cena's final match wasn't about titles or wins and losses anymore. It was about legacy. It was about the years of sacrifice, the countless miles traveled, the injuries endured, and the millions of fans inspired across generations. By the time Cena raised his hand one last time and disappeared behind the curtain, many believed that was the end of the story. But backstage, something even more powerful was about to unfold. As Cena made his way through the gorilla position, the applause from the crowd still echoing faintly through the halls, he was greeted by Triple H, producers, and longtime staff members who had shared decades of history with him. Hugs were exchanged, eyes were misty, and words were hard to find. This wasn't the loud, dramatic goodbye fans are used to seeing on television. This was quiet, personal, and deeply human. Cena took his time, thanking everyone individually, from camera operators to referees, acknowledging that his journey was never a solo act. It was a collective effort built by countless people behind the scenes. What fans didn't see, and what has now begun to surface through unseen footage and backstage reports, is that Jon Moxley was there that night too. Moxley, a man whose WWE run was filled with intensity, rebellion, and unforgettable moments, wasn't scheduled to appear on camera. He wasn't advertised, and there was no expectation from fans that he would be part of the evening. But for Moxley, this wasn't about business or storylines. This was about respect. This was about saying goodbye to a man who, whether directly or indirectly, played a significant role in shaping the modern WWE landscape that Moxley himself emerged from. According to those backstage, Moxley waited patiently, staying out of sight, not wanting to draw attention or make the moment about himself. When the timing felt right, he approached Cena. The two men locked eyes, and for a brief moment, there was silence. No cameras, no scripts. Just two warriors who had walked similar paths in very different ways. What followed was a handshake that turned into a hug, one that lasted longer than anyone expected. In that embrace was years of shared locker rooms, battles, frustrations, and mutual understanding of what it takes to survive at the highest level of professional wrestling. Moxley reportedly spoke first, his voice steady but emotional. He thanked Cena for setting a standard, not just in the ring but backstage. He talked about how Cena's work ethic, his professionalism, and his ability to carry the company on his back showed younger talent what was possible if they were willing to give everything. Moxley acknowledged that even when opinions differed, even when paths didn't align creatively, Cena never stopped being a leader. Never stopped being someone who showed up early, stayed late, and put the business first. Cena listened intently, nodding, occasionally smiling, clearly moved by the words. When he responded, it wasn't with a long speech. It was simple and sincere. Cena thanked Moxley for being real in an industry that often demands conformity. He praised Moxley's fearlessness, his willingness to push boundaries, and his refusal to lose himself in the process. Cena admitted that wrestling needs people like Moxley, people who challenge the system, because that's how the industry grows and evolves. The conversation reportedly shifted from wrestling to life. They talked about the toll the road takes, the sacrifices made away from family, and the strange reality of knowing when it's time to step away. Cena shared that walking away wasn't about being done with wrestling emotionally, but about understanding when to let the next generation take over. Moxley, still very much in the thick of his own journey, listened carefully, absorbing every word. It wasn't advice given from a pedestal, but wisdom shared between equals. As word of this unseen moment began to spread, fans were quick to react. Social media lit up with speculation, emotion, and appreciation. For many, the idea of Jon Moxley and John Cena sharing such a private, heartfelt moment symbolized the bridge between eras. Cena represented the face of WWE during one of its most dominant periods, while Moxley represented the voice of those who wanted something different, something raw and unapologetic. Seeing mutual respect between them reminded fans that behind the characters and storylines are real people who understand each other's struggles better than anyone else. Other wrestlers backstage were said to have watched from a distance, not intruding, but clearly aware that they were witnessing something special. Some later described the atmosphere as heavy but beautiful. There was sadness, yes, but also gratitude. Gratitude for Cena's contributions and for the memories he created. Gratitude for the opportunity to share a locker room with someone who defined what it meant to be a franchise player. As the night went on, Cena continued making his rounds, saying goodbye in his own way to as many people as possible. Each interaction was different. Some were lighthearted, filled with jokes and laughter, while others were quiet and emotional. With Moxley, however, there was a sense of closure that stood out. It wasn't just a goodbye between two wrestlers. It was a farewell between two generations, two philosophies, and two men who had both given everything to the craft. Unseen footage reportedly captures Cena walking away from that conversation with Moxley, pausing for a moment, and taking a deep breath before continuing down the hallway. It was as if the weight of the moment had fully settled in. This was real. This was the end of a chapter that could never be rewritten. For fans who grew up watching Cena, and for those who later connected with Moxley's rebellious energy, this backstage moment felt like a passing of the torch, even if no torch was physically handed over. In the days following SNME, more details emerged from those close to the situation. Many emphasized how intentional Moxley was about being there. He didn't want publicity. He didn't want headlines. He just wanted to look Cena in the eye and say thank you. In an industry often driven by ego and spotlight, that quiet act spoke volumes. It reminded everyone that respect still matters and that the bonds formed in wrestling often run deeper than fans will ever know. John Cena's departure from full-time competition leaves a void that can never truly be filled. There will be new stars, new champions, and new main events, but there will never be another Cena. His ability to connect with